Hello and welcome to the show. This is a special live event here on YouTube and streaming to LinkedIn. And I'm sharing some burnout real talk today. I'm going to be sharing how I've stayed out of burnout the past few months, really in the last month in particular. There's been a lot that's happened. And I've spent probably most of the day on and off just like in joyful tears. My two words for 2024, my sort of North Star words, those things that kind of guide us through each of our days. I chose two words this year: gratitude and play. And both of those have really been a huge part of the day to day, but especially gratitude. Today is International Women's Day. And I started off my morning. I jumped into the no pitch networking with your business peeps and my darling friend, Tracy Borson. And my good friend, Sydney Elaine Butler, joined in the group. And that's actually how we met. And my friend Charlie Hart posted this morning. And I'm telling you, when I say that it has just been a day of deep gratitude and reflection and so much thankfulness for me today, and how I have such amazing women in my life. And I honestly never thought I'd have that. I always wanted it. My whole life. I desperately wanted friends when I was a younger person and when I was a child, and I just never seemed to make connections with people, or I would for just a little while and then somehow they would fall away or something would happen and they would just end or disappear. And I never felt, and I never had just like a core group or group of women that got me. And I think that one of the biggest things that has helped me, that has allowed me to stay out of burnout the last couple of months and especially the last few weeks, has been the women in my life. It's been my close friends. Not even my close friends. It's been friends that, I'm friends with, but we don't always get to talk all the time. But we have that heart connection. We've chosen to be in each other's life and to be there in really authentic and vulnerable ways. And I just have felt so much gratitude. And I had a lot of tears and I was crying before this one because I was just so happy and so thankful and joyful. And if you guys are on the VIP email list, you read some of the things that have happened lately. And for those of you who are over on LinkedIn, there's also an article that I published earlier this week. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster. And I won't lie, there have been points where it's been a challenge. And up until a few months ago, I was still, and I didn't realize this. I've shared it with a couple of my good friends. I didn't realize that I had been holding my breath in sort of metaphorically speaking, waiting for the shoe to drop. I've been out of burnout for over 4 years now. And I had my 4-year anniversary back in November of 22. And until about 6 months ago, I had a realization that I had been afraid that no matter what I did, no matter what I had learned, no matter how long this burnout free experience had been happening in my life, that it was going to come to an end. That there were going to be things and stressors that I couldn't handle. And that scared me. And I didn't realize that had been going on in the back of my mind. I spent 40 years on the chronic cycle burnout loop beginning at the age of 6. So that had been my norm for so long. And I've only had this as my quote unquote norm for just a few years. And back right before Christmas, Josh and I got really sick. We got the COVID variants, and we got both of them, we think. It just kind of rolled into each other. And it ended up being about 8 weeks for me to fully recover. It was about 3 or 4 weeks of hardcore being sick, and then another 3, 4 weeks to recover. And that took some energy, and it affected me in a different way. Like, my stamina was really impacted, and that was number 1. Like, that was the big number 1 thing. That was the first thing, I guess, on the dominoes, right? Because they always come in threes, and this sucker came in a package of threes. The second thing that happened was about 2 weeks after I'd finally recovered from being sick for all that time, I wasn't feeling well after dinner, and I felt fine all day, and I wasn't feeling well, and I thought, "Oh, I feel like I'm gonna be sick." And I started, like, getting, like, those cold sweats, like, clammy cold sweat feeling and short of breath, and I felt like I was gonna, you know, faint, but I've never fainted. I've never lost consciousness. Like, I've gotten on the verge and collapsed before, but I didn't lose consciousness. And I went into the bathroom, and the next thing I know, I was unconscious, and I was coming to over the side of my bathtub, face down, with, my body out of the tub, my torso in the bathtub. And I opened my eyes, and we have a white tub and a white bath mat. And I opened my eyes, and all I could see was white. And I'm not kidding you. For a split second, I was like, "Holy cow, am I dead? Did I die?" And then I realized, no, this is the bath mat, right? And I went to the emergency room the next morning because I didn't have enough clarity that evening. I really, honestly, it affected me in a big way. And I didn't realize I wasn't thinking really clearly. I should have gone to the emergency room that night, but I didn't because I couldn't think clearly enough to say, I think I do need to go. I went sound asleep. Like, I went to sleep for like 2 or 3 hours. Well, I went to the emergency room the next day and got checked out, and they're like, "Well, we it wasn't a cardiac event," because I was kind of afraid of that. We do have that in our family. And I was like, "Well, I didn't have like a TIA, like a, stroke or anything like that." They're like, "No, no, we don't see that either. We don't know what it is, but my heart rate and blood pressure were all over the place because I have POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and so those things were happening." And that's number 2. I'm sharing sort of the events that led to all of this so that you can experience and feel the building layers of stress. There's a book that I deeply love by Flannery O'Connor, and she was a writer in the last century. And she wrote a book called Everything That Rises Must Converge. And it's a collection of short stories. And I remember reading this in college. I went to Spring Hill College, and this was the year I was taking American literature. And as I read that book, I remember feeling this physical stress, as I read through each story, and it was building throughout this entire book. Every time I read a story, it was hitting me deeper and deeper, and I was feeling more and more stress. And as I was hitting the second big stressor event in my life recently, I was feeling those things in my body. And before, I also have alexithymia. And I'm autistic and ADHD. So there's delayed processing. There's this place where I now know what I didn't know before. And that is, my body is going to take a minute to catch up to the actual situation in the outside world. My internal processing takes a little bit. And as the third event happened 2 weeks after I was unconscious, this one was really a big one. So I have 2 boys by birth, and I have a third son that we've adopted. And I got a text message about 11:30 Friday night 2 weeks ago. And it was, I need to know if Dryden can have these certain drugs. He says he can't have this one. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. It's this one, and what's going on?" Well, all 3 of the boys were in an accident. And it wasn't just any accident. My eldest son and one of the younger boys, they're both 18, were in the car. And my other son was on a motorcycle. Now, he and his older brother bought motorcycles this summer to their father and my great dismay. Fortunately, they have helmets and the whole body armor stuff. And he was selling this motorcycle. And so his older brother said, "Well, we better follow you since you're taking the license plate off. And we want to make sure that you get there safe and I'll drive you back home." He said, "But you stay in front of me." Well, this isn't a very large city with millions of people. And this is a Friday evening in rush hour traffic. And for whatever reason, my son on the motorcycle got behind my older son who was driving in the traffic, and they hit a wall of traffic, and the person in front of my son driving the car slammed on brakes. So, of course, he had to slam on brakes, and he said, "Mom, I had to swerve to miss the car," and my younger son was on the motorcycle behind him, and when he pulled the brakes, the front brake didn't work. The back brake did. And it wasn't quite enough. It slowed him down, but he slammed into the back of my older son's car. And when he did, he went through the rear windshield and suffered an open break of his wrist and forearm. So that meant the bone was protruding through the skin. And it took like 3 hours to get to the emergency room as he's bleeding because of all this traffic. And so I'm learning all of this as my younger son is going into emergency, well, not emergency, but surgery the next morning on Saturday. And it ended up being about a 4-hour surgery. And in that time, one of the women that I'm good friends with said, "Hey, Carol Jean, do you need to talk or you just need to have a distraction while you're waiting?" And I said, "Yeah, I really could." And it had been about an hour. And so she got on the phone with me and we talked for about an hour and a half. And when I talk about stress, this was number 3. And I talk about that delayed processing that comes up. There was a pretty low point on Saturday where all of that negative self talk, all of that fear and anxiety hit. And you know what? Sometimes when we're under stress, when we get scared, especially when it's about our babies as mamas, we can think some pretty crazy stuff, some pretty extreme stuff. I was no different. I was sitting there thinking, my kids are 6 hours away from me. And how in the world am I sitting here and I'm not in the car going and my son's in surgery? And I thought, are they going to know I love them? Are they going to know that they matter? And so I spiraled down in this very chaotic thought pattern. And my partner is truly just the rock for me in so many situations and helps me process because I'm an auditory processor. So as I'm sharing all of this with you, I'm doing it with intention and I'm sharing all of the vulnerable raw stuff because it's a it's a little embarrassing. There's kind of a shame storm that goes with I was thinking all of this really off the wall stuff. But I don't think I'm alone. I think I think a lot of us have this happen. And I knew it. I felt it. I caught myself, which I think is one of the tools that I've learned. And it's part of what I teach in the unveiling method. And it's that thought thermostat. And I knew it. And being an auditory processor, because that's something I've learned about myself as well. I looked at Josh. We were standing in the kitchen, and I said, "This is all the stuff in my brain." And I just, bleh, here it was. Are the kids going to think I'm a terrible mom? But their dad was with them. He was closer, so we got there. And I trusted that he was doing everything because I know I can, right? We co-parent. This is the thing. But there was all of this doubt and this worry and this fear that was going on in my head. And he said, "Carol Jean, what I hear you saying is, am I making the right decision?" And he said, can you say that you're making the wrong decision with the information that you have? And I went, whoa, yeah, you're right. I am. I am making the right decision. I am making a good decision. And I had to manage and navigate my energy in that because those thoughts, those types of thought storms and those thinking traps that we can fall into, those all or nothing, like I'm a good mom or a horrible mom. And then the worry about what other people might think. And really, do I normally care? No, not really. But in that moment, I was caring. And I had to really recenter myself. I had to realign. And these are tools that I've learned that I'm still learning and I'm still honing every day. And I will say that all of these things, these stressors, have been a gift. Well, then Monday, I have this other incident that comes up, and it's not nearly as big as my kids getting in an accident. Now, they are all home and they are safe and sound. And day before yesterday, I learned that this particular incident has made an impact on all of them because they all are 18 and 20. And I remember being that age and being very careless and loose and free with my life, not realizing how precious and how delicate it really is. And they now have that same opinion, which I am so grateful for. Motorcycles and Corvettes and all kinds of stuff that they do. I am thankful for that. Well, Sunday night, my phone didn't charge, and Monday morning, it was totally dead. So then I was having to navigate all of the stress. It took like 6 hours because I logged into my cell phone company to say, "Hey, my phone's not working. I have coverage for this. What the heck do I do?" And they were like, "Oh, great." As I had to go online because I couldn't call them, they said, "Oh, great. We'll text you an access code and then we can help you." And I'm like, "Yeah, you can't text me anything, but thanks." So I'm like, "Well, let me see if I can swap it to my email." Turns out my email, it was totally full. The OneDrive was so jam-packed that I couldn't send or receive emails. And that was stressful. That was just like those grains of sand that tip the hourglass. You know, it only takes that one grain of sand to tip the scales. And I was feeling it. After the kids had gotten home and I knew that they were safe, I had said to myself that weekend when I was talking to my friend Jen on the phone, and she was there just supporting me and holding space for me. And if I can give you some burnout real talk, even if it's just one person, find your person. Not having connection, community, support, I think exacerbated my burnout for decades. And one of the biggest pieces that has allowed me to find those people has been knowing more about who I am. And then I could more easily find those other people that align with me. Oh, thanks, Tiffany. Definitely real talk indeed. Yes. Oh, thanks, Tammy. I appreciate that. And these are two women who are part of my circle. They are part of how I navigate life. Tiffany and Tammy, thank you. There's so much that I don't think we think about. And, you know, when you've been in burnout for a long time, you forget what feeling good really feels like. You have these little glimpses, you have these little sprinkles and these little windows where it doesn't feel as bad. And so when we're in burnout, and we've been in burnout for a long time, a lot of the time, and I know this was true for me, I just wanted to feel better than I feel right now. Now, I didn't have a degree of better. I just knew that where and what I was experiencing was really horrible. And I didn't want to feel this way anymore. I just wanted to feel better. And I didn't have a destination. I didn't have a vision or anything to even say that's what I want to feel. That's what I want to experience. And after I knew that the kids were home safe and everybody was going to be okay, knowing that I have delayed processing, I was paying attention. And this is a really critical insight right here. I was paying attention because I knew some information about myself. And Thursday morning last week, I woke up and I said, I don't feel great. I feel really body weary for the first time in a very long time. What do I need today? And I want to ask you, how often do you ever ask yourself that question? What do I need today? Or what do I need right now? And actually know that can be a really big, vague question. What do I need? Most of the time I had no idea, but now I do. Now I have a map. I have a nourishment map that says these are the 30 basic human needs. These are the nourishment keys. This is what's most important for you. This is where most of your energy gets drained when it's not met. And here are the boundaries, the rules that I've created to get those things in my life more consistently, to flow energy in. Because wherever your biggest energy drain is, that's also going to be your biggest energy booster. And now that I know that, now that I know what happens, when I woke up that Thursday morning and I went, wow, what do I need? And I stopped and I took a breath. Like, let's just take a breath together right now. In through your nose. If it's allergy season, through your mouth. Hold it. 1, 2, 3. Relax your body. Smile. 4, 5, 6. Exhale through your mouth. Really just soften your body as you exhale. In that moment, just giving yourself that breath allows a pause, and it creates space to where we can start to check in. Now, this is not something that I always knew how to do. I'd been in survival mode. I had had multiple layers of trauma for decades, so my body did not feel like a safe place. To be in this was not safe. I was like a shark. I never stopped moving because if I stopped moving, I felt threatened. I felt like something bad was going to happen. So I've learned and I've had to reconnect with my physical body to feel safe here, to feel safe in my thoughts, to feel safe in my feelings, to be safe in my physical body. And when I checked in with myself that Thursday morning and I went, what do I need? Why? What? I'm feeling something heavy here. What do I need? And I thought, I'm body weary. My body needs rest. My mind, my emotions need some space. So for the first time in 3 years, I had 2 podcast guests booked to record that day. I reached out and I said, I need to reschedule. And they were very kind and very understanding and said, absolutely, no problem. And I got in bed and I slept most of Thursday during the day, which this ADHD squirrel does not do. I do not sleep in the middle of the day. That is not a common thing. I mean, I've got fever or something serious is happening, but I slept that day. And the next day I woke up and I said, okay, let's check in again. What's happening, Carol Jean? How you feeling, girl?" 'Cause I do talk to myself like that. And I thought, "I need another day. I need more rest." And I watched a little TV that day, and I slept some more. And I woke up Saturday morning and felt better. And I was like, "What do I need today? Do I need sleep? Do I need to stay, in the bed and kind of relaxing and horizontal?" I was like, "No, that isn't what I need today." You know what I needed? I needed to clean out the closet in my office. And you may be laughing. Like, okay, the closet, really? Yeah, because when we're talking about our energy, we got to talk about energy hygiene. Now, I'd never thought about it in this way as being hygiene for your energy. And I learned that from Julie Chandler. Julie is an amazing woman and she is just incredible. And Julie taught me about energy hygiene. And I was thinking about that and I thought, there's been a lot of heavy stuff happening. And I hope you're picking up the little golden nuggets and breadcrumbs I'm leading and leaving along the way in this conversation so that you can take some of these tools for yourself. So I said, "Oh, there's been a lot of emotional stuff happening. I need to have some energy hygiene." So I vacuumed my space and swept the floors. I went into my office closet because it felt a little junky and cluttered. And, our physical space creates a lot of energy blocks. We have you ever just like cleaned off a surface that's been really cluttered and it's kind of like getting nose blind. You get eye blind to all the clutter because you just see it all the time and you don't realize how it registers stress in your nervous system. When I pulled things out of that closet, now I want to just tell you, the universe always serves stuff up. So not only did I get the closet cleaned out and went through boxes I hadn't even unpacked since we moved here this summer. It just so happens that in one of those boxes was the box that my phone came in originally. So Monday, when that sucker was totally dead, and I had to say, okay, and they said, we'll send it to a repair center. Here's the thing to mail it in. I had the original box to put my phone in and the tool to pull my SD card out because, they said, we can't guarantee all of the storage and memory on your phone. I'm like, no problem. I saved it all to the little disk. So I took that out and set my phone back in the original box. But when I got to the end of that, because you'd think it's going to require and take energy for me to clean my space, right? To sort of take care of my energy hygiene. I shaved my legs that day. I hadn't shaved my legs in like 2 weeks. So I was like Chewbacca. And that didn't feel very good for me. I mean, some people, that's no big deal. To me, I have a sensory thing. So when I did that, stuff for my body, stuff for my physical space, and I drank more water that day. I was intentionally drinking more clean, cool water, which, by the way, let's take a water break, guys. And when I woke up Sunday morning, I said, oh, okay, I've gotten what I needed. I feel better. Those those moments, those moments when I could have felt really guilty. I could have had the shame storm because, this morning I spoke at the AANE conference, which is the Autism Network. And I asked everybody in the audience, I was like, what do you struggle with the most in burnout right now? And everything that they shared was exactly what I also have gone through lately. One person said the guilt from feeling unproductive. And I'll tell you, that was a different experience this time because normally the guilt, oh Lord, the guilt and the shame from not being productive was huge for me. And I took off Thursday and Friday and canceled appointments and told people I can't do this today. And there was a time in my life when that I would have pushed through. And I call that the push through it crowd, right? I was the leader of the push through it crowd for decades. Suck it up, buttercup, because being productive to me for so long equated with being safe. If I'm productive and useful, if I am doing all of the things, then I'm worthy. I'm good enough. Bad things can't happen. People can't say anything bad or hurt my feelings because I'm being quote unquote productive. And that's what is expected because we have social expectations and then we have our expectations, and they're usually way the heck up here. And I had to really, and part of burnout restoration and staying out of burnout has been a great deal of reflection, identifying what are my beliefs? What is the operating software that I'm running all this hardware on? Because my 1.0 software was crashing and killing my hardware for decades. And I had to upgrade to a 2.0 software operating system that's going to support my hardware, my body. Because in that level 5 ghost pepper burnout, where you're so hot, you're not, your body shuts down. And I've been in that burnout. I've been where my entire body shut down and I was furious. I was angry with my body for betraying me, for quitting on me. And then one day I realized with compassion and great love and appreciation that my body had been doing the absolute best that it could with what I was forcing it to do. So when I had to cancel things and take a few days for myself, I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel shame. I felt proud and I felt really relieved and free. God, there was this amazing experience of freedom that I was worthy of meeting my needs, that I was worthy of nourishing myself. And I didn't have to push through. Somebody else this morning said, managing all the things that need to happen to keep life running. As a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, just as a human, as a dog mom, there's always something to do. The to-do list was killing me. And I can't say that I ever meet another person that comes into the Unveiling Method program who can't also say that their to-do list is killing them mentally, emotionally, physically. And a lot of it has to do with our human aversion to subtraction bias. We have a bias against removing anything from our list, removing anything from our calendar. And that has really been a big place for me. Number one, to take the things off my calendar that just don't need to be there in the first place. I was talking with a client this week, and this has come up a couple different times in the last week for myself and for several people in the community of the Unveilers. And she said, I've had so many meetings just back to back for weeks. And I said, oh, I know what you mean. And this happens. We go through these seasons and at work, sometimes this happens. And all of a sudden, we get voluntold that we're on committees or we're on this project team and all this stuff. And we're like, well, okay. And then the next thing you know, we're getting this stream of calendar invitations for meetings in our inbox. And sometimes we don't even know why we're there. So I had a boss several years ago, and one of the things that I'm so grateful that I learned from her, you want to talk about influential women in your life, Debbie was one for me. And she never took a meeting and agreed to it on her calendar that she didn't first confirm, number one, what is the purpose of this meeting? What is the intended outcome for this meeting, right? Number 2, what is my purpose in this meeting? Is it contributing to this outcome? Is it necessary? And if so, number 3, what do you require from me? And she would not accept an invitation until she got answers to those 3 questions. Now, it took a little bit to kind of train other people that those 3 things needed to be answered for her before you send her an invitation. But slowly people learned. Some people learned faster than others. I'm gonna say there's always one in the bunch, right? We get that one person that just kept sending them. And I thought, "Oh, I never would have thought that I could ask, 'Do I even need to be at this meeting?'" And then my good friend Jessica Michaels even says, "Could this meeting have been an email?" You know? And I think sometimes we can actually be of service when we ask those questions to people who are planning meetings. Is let's be honest, we know there's a lot of political stuff that happens. We know there's a lot of, social unspoken rules that happen. And so people feel like I need to invite them to this meeting because I don't want to step on their toes or make them feel like they're left out or whatever. So it's just like this obligatory invitation. But when we look at our calendars, and I'm going to tell you, and the reason I'm sharing this is this is a really important burnout tool. This is what's helped me recently, in particular, stay out of burnout because I really looked at any invitations that I got and I've asked, is this something I need to be at? And then very, very confidently, very carefully, but also very empowered can say, it's okay if I'm not there. It doesn't require me, and I can remove it from my calendar. But there was a time when, number one, I didn't know that I could ask those questions. Number two, I didn't know I could opt out and say, I'm not going to be there because there's no reason for me to. And to also look at my calendar, to look at my to do list with a discerning eye that says, should this even be on my list? Is this my responsibility? Is this falling within my purview? And if not, I'm going to eliminate it altogether. And then the next question is, okay, this does fall into my wheelhouse, but the big question is this something I am supposed to be doing? Do I personally have to do this or can I outsource this? And I'm telling you, when you look at that and you start to get creative and playful, like have fun with this and don't judge and say that, oh, I've got to do laundry, but I'm responsible for picking it all up, putting it in the basket, sorting it, and washing it, and drying it, and putting it away. A 3-year-old can help you put laundry in a basket. There are so many things that we tend to think I have to do them that aren't necessary. And over the last couple of weeks, that has served me in a lot of ways. This has been a really eye-opening few weeks for me in the sense that I have felt more grounded, I have felt more empowered, and I have felt more confident in my energy mastery because life doesn't stop throwing us stress. Life is stress is part of life. That is the natural extension and experience of being human. And to say that I'm going to live every day stress free and regret free, that's not what life is. What life is that we do have stressors. We do have those highs. We do have those lows. We have the mountain rare air moments at the top, and then we have those struggles through the valley. And all of that is supposed to be there. It's all part of life. But sometimes we buy into this thing like somehow we're supposed to be happy all the time and stress free all the time and, live with no regrets. Those are the things that hone and refine us. They're the things that teach us. It's our hand on the hot stove. And my hand has touched the hot stove, and I am thankful for it because it has given me the place to step into applying what I've learned, being able to take that blueprint, take that map that I've created for myself to know what my nourishment needs are, to recognize what does stress feel like in my body? How does stress show up in my external world before I ever feel it? Because I might be processing it at a different rate. And how do I, with loving kindness, with compassionate curiosity, stop to take a breath and ask myself, what do I need in this moment? And really listen to what my higher self says. Because I think we go for so long where we're not listening to our bodies. We're not listening to our higher self. We're not tapped into our intuition because we don't trust. We don't trust our own thoughts or our own experiences because somehow the world has said we were wrong along the way and then we doubted it. I've got some pretty cool stuff coming up this month, and I'm really excited to share it. We have a phenomenal March guest lineup, and we're going to be honoring Women's History Month. And this coming Tuesday on the 12th, you're going to have a little bit more real talk, Burnout Real Talk with me. And I'm going to be sharing the 3 biggest energy drainers from my research over the last 3 years into a global spicy research study. And I've got those to share with you so that you can identify, well, gosh, if these are the 3 biggest ones, which one of these is really the biggest energy drainer for me? And I'll be sharing some insights on how you can start bringing energy in once you've identified which one of those top 3 might be draining your energy right now. Then on March the 19th or 16th, I can't read my thing, I'm blind. I need new glasses. I have the amazing Kiki Wilkinson, and she and I are talking about those sneaky, really sneaky little things that come in our protection mechanisms when we're in burnout. And one of those is trust. And I mentioned that today, trusting ourselves, trusting other people. Kiki and I dive into this because there's a lot more to it than you think. And there's trust management that goes into that. So where she's going to be sharing insights you may not have ever thought actually relate to your energy mastery and burnout restoration. And then my last guest for this month are Lorianne LaRocca and her daughter, Abby Wallace. These are 2 beautiful neurodistinct humans who have been on this passion journey around their focus and interest area for 3 years to write a book called Empowering Your Past, Embracing Your Past to Empower Your Future. And you may be wondering, how in the world does a book about 4 families who are descendants of some of the slaves from the Clotilde ship and from Africatown, which was part of where I grew up, how does that relate to burnout? You'll be amazed. These women have really done such a beautiful job in creating a book and a nonprofit that I think you're going to want to really be a part of. And I'm so excited to have them. And if you are looking for a place to start your journey, not only can you go take the Spicy Pepper Burnout quiz, also you can get my book, Unleashing Sustainable Energy, to unveil the dreams, passions, and energy that is already yours. You may feel like you have to find it, you have to create it, you have to identify it, but you don't. It's already yours. And we just need to unveil some of the muck that's covered it up because it is truly already available to you. Those micro recharge moments that I teach, that's 5 minutes or less. Sometimes it's, 20 minutes or less. But there are ways that you can transform your energy in a breath, in the blink of an eye. And I want to help teach you that. In my book, it shares all the assessments that you need. And as I'll tell you in the book, assessments are great, but they are completely useless if you don't have a framework and a blueprint or a map to apply them to. So there's also the bundle with all of the workbooks, and everything that you need is in this book to take you on your energy mastery journey. Thanks for being here with me. Thank you so much to each and every person who has shown up in the chat, who has sent some love, who has shared this visit with me today. Thanks for being here, my friends, because this is kind of a raw spot. This was a lot of vulnerable, real talk, sharing some of the challenges that I've faced in my energy mastery journey recently, in my mother's heart. And I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being here. And if you're watching the replay, I appreciate you. Reach out. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how I can support you, how I can help guide you on your energy mastery, because the first and most important place is to have community, to know that you are not alone, to know that you are seen, heard, and understood. Take care, guys, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye bye.